Well, okay, everyone. Good morning. Today is Thursday, May 25th, and welcome to another edition of Ask Me Anything from the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Project. It's good to be with you all. I'm Jonathan Banks. I'm here on behalf of Next and behalf of the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Project in partnership and powered by the City of St. Paul. It's good to be with you all again. Today, we're going to be talking about digital marketing with reservation technologies. A lot of folks rely on reservations for their restaurants. It's actually one of the most tried and true methods of getting folks in the door and generating revenue for restaurants and engaging customers. But sometimes we only see reservation systems as a way of seeing how many tables are filled, when really these are powerful technologies that we can use to reach out to customers in places where we may not have known that we can use technologies to reach out to them. And so today we're just going to talk about a few examples of how that's done, show some examples of local restaurants who are using some of these technologies and how they're using them in their restaurant. So that's going to be really fun to dive into. I want to first just kind of go back and talk about a little bit about what Ask Me Anything is all about. And so I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller here on the screen so I can talk about Ask Me Anything. Ask Me Anything comes from the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Project. And what we do here is at the project is we utilize tools, methods, and expertise to conduct digital audits of restaurants in the city. And so we understand what their technology support needs are. And so we can provide more support from the project to them on behalf of the city of St. Paul. And so these digital audits really help the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Project make sure that the city's impact is felt where it's needed most. AMA is a webinar and a website, so you can go to ncxt.co/AMA and /RRPAMA, and there you will be able to engage with Ask Me Anything. You can submit a technical support request, and the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Project will reach out to you and help you through the technical support need that you have. We also have this webinar that you're a part of right now. So your restaurant and folks in your restaurant can join to learn more and get your questions answered about various topics on technology and restaurants. And like we said, today we're talking about marketing with reservation technologies. This is available to all St. Paul restaurants at no cost to them. Anyone can join the webinar and ask a question, and any St. Paul restaurant can submit an Ask Me Anything request, and we'll be more than happy to deploy some support from the project to help the restaurant out with whatever their needs might be. And so that's what Ask Me Anything is all about. Today, we're going to be talking about digital marketing with restaurant technologies. And we're specifically talking about reservation technologies today. And so in preparation for this work and for this webinar, the team at Next did a ton of research to look at the reservation technologies that are being used in St. Paul restaurants right now and how they're being used. Also to look at the technology and evaluate them to see if these are recommended for restaurants to use or not, or in what scenarios and cases we might want to use one technology or another. We really want to focus in today on talking about how restaurants are using these reservation technologies to do marketing, to do digital marketing. And so we reviewed 7 rooms, Yelp Guest Manager, Table In, Tavlo, Talk, Resi, and OpenTable. And so those are the technologies that were reviewed for this month. And they're also available on the Next website at the ncxt.co/RRP Tech Guide. There you'll find the reviews of these technologies. So you can look them over in your own time and figure out what's right for you, or figure out if you're using the specific technology in a way that's most helpful for your situation and for your restaurant. So first, we're gonna look at the technologies themselves, and then we're gonna look at a couple use cases of the technologies that we found in place during our digital audits, and see how restaurants in the city are using that technology. I just wanted to do a quick overview of these technologies first, and just kind of talk about some of the ways that reservation technologies can be used to engage customers and to drive more business to your restaurant. Number one is that if you're looking at any of these solutions, Seven Rooms, Table In, Tableau, Talk, Open Table, for instance, a lot of these reservation technologies are already doing marketing on your behalf. So simply by being on the platform, you're able to tap into a customer base that is also going to that platform. I think Open Table was the first out of all of these, is actually one of the most cost prohibitive technologies for smaller restaurants to use, because it is a little bit pricier, but they've been in the market the longest time, have the biggest market share for reservations. And a lot of people, when they're searching for a reservation, they'll go to Open Table to see what they can find in the area. Now, all of these restaurant reservation technologies play that similar game, where they have a website where if customers are looking for a reservation, they can go directly to that reservation and connect to the network of restaurants that are using that reservation technology. So being on one of these platforms is important, so you can get that visibility. And really that tends to be around, which of these platforms is going to have the greatest market share. So if you look at an Open Table, a Resi, a Talk, a Yelp Guest Manager, like those have a lot of traffic going towards them already. And so if you're on one of those platforms, you're going to get that benefit of getting the traffic that is already going to those platforms, also getting eyes on your restaurant, perhaps, especially if the way that you put yourself out there is very accommodating to customers. And that leads us to the second point. How do you actually put yourself out there in these technologies so the customers who are out there can find you? Well, there's a number of strategies that can be put in place for doing that. But one of the things is to consider the customers that you are appealing to. Are these families, or is it date night? What type of tables are we trying to fill in the restaurant? By understanding that concept, you can understand how you want to make those tables available through these platforms. Sometimes you can drive some scarcity in the way that you make tables available on these platforms. You may not want to have the whole restaurant open all the time. You want to have the reservation suit both the workforce who's going to be in the building and also the trends around customers too. So you don't have an abundance of tables available when you're not expecting a lot of customers to be coming in during that time, or you don't have the workforce to support them. So really being able to tie those to the customer and the workforce elements together to make sure that you have the right availability of tables is important. Also the table configurations, is these for families, large groups, what type date night, 1 or 2 folks. What are we trying to drive here? So that's an important thing to know. The third thing I'd point out is that with some of these technologies, it allows us to set a premium on different tables that are available in the restaurant. And we'll talk about that too. So, some technologies actually, I think Resi is one of those where you can actually make a premium on, have the customers pay a premium to get certain seating. And this was actually kind of interesting during the pandemic. Patio seating was a big thing, right? People wanted to go to restaurants. They didn't want to sit inside. They wanted to reserve spots on the patio. But to do that, sometimes you'd charge, a $30, $40, $50 fee to be able to hold that table for them, which was another way of ensuring that the premium seats where you were compensated for that when you really needed it so much during the pandemic when everything was so tight. So that's something to look out for too when you're making choices about these reservation platforms, and how do you market yourself through them as well. So after reviewing that, I just want to talk a little bit more about some of the technologies that we have on the screen here, and reveal some of the analysis that the next team did over the course of this program and put it together here. really reflecting the technologies that are used in the city of St. Paul. There's a couple here which we are added into just to open up, folks' minds to possibilities that are out there, even if the solution isn't very prevalently used here in the city. And we'll talk a little bit about that dynamic because, if the technology, customers don't know about the technology, then you're not going to get some of those marketing benefits from it. Similar to how we talked about OpenTable, people want to find reservations. Sometimes they just go to OpenTable. But if you're using a less popular option, folks might not even know to go there. That option can compensate for that too. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's look at some of these options here. We looked at 7 Rooms, Yelp Guest Manager, Table In, Tableau, Talk, Resi, and OpenTable. And so these are all very fine options for restaurants in St. Paul to use, restaurants in the local area to use. And they come with various, differences in pricing, cost, et cetera. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about 7 Rooms to get started. It's they do a lot of marketing on the 7 Rooms platform on Google and elsewhere. So if people search reservation, the 7 Rooms is bound to pop up, and so customers will be able to find you there. It's not as popular as others, but it is a good option, especially when thinking about the price comparison. I'll talk about that in just a moment here. Yelp Guest Manager continues to be a good option for businesses and restaurants that are looking to attract visitors, to the region or to the city into their restaurant. The nice thing is that it has the waitlist functionality, so you can easily see who's on the wait list. And you can easily manage the reservations through the platform. Table In is another one. It's a reservation widget that goes right on your website. A little bit less popular in our area. We actually didn't have any restaurants in the program using Table In, but we did want to put it out there as an option, and it's a developing and growing option too. Tableau is actually a locally owned reservation company. They've actually been a partner to the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Project for about 4 years now. The nice thing is that they combine reservations with fixed fee delivery. So if folks, look at your site and they like your food and they want to, decide whether they're going to, dine in or have it delivered all at home, they can pick either one of those 2 options. Just from the Tableau app itself. And so that's a really good option to have that delivery included. Talk is another one that is, it's pretty local. It's based in Chicago, so it's pretty close to us here. They've been a partner to the program as well. And they offer a low commission delivery along with their scheduling too. Resi is a little bit bigger. It's more geared towards your full service restaurants. And as we talked about, they do have some interesting ways of ensuring that folks show up for their reservation. You can pay, a premium to have your table reserved, things of that nature. And there's lots of more of our kind of full service restaurants are using the solution, a little bit higher priced on that one. And then OpenTable, it's kind of the industry leader, but also one of the most expensive options to dial into. So if you're using OpenTable, you're going to get lots of visibility and traffic to your restaurant by using that, but also you're going to be looking at some higher fees based on that. When we talk about these fees, I've got a little chart off to the side that I'm reading from here that we have some fees listed, and we can definitely put these up on the website too to share with y'all later. But a system like these systems can go anywhere from like $99 a month all the way up to having like a pay per reservation situation happening. And that's what we have with OpenTable. The more tables you fill through the system, the more you're going to pay on top of your basic flat fee every month. Usually you can get into these for around $100 a month. We look at Tableau, that's $100 a month. Yelp Guest Manager, that's $100 a month to get started. The Resi is a little bit more, $249 a month to get started. Table In, $124 a month. 7 Rooms, $499 a month. So we've got some variation on prices here and to get in on these. But the important thing to think about is getting into the technology and how you're going to use them in your restaurant so you can get the most benefit out of them and drive the most business to your restaurant. So let's take a look at a few examples of that. I'm going to share a different window, and we'll take a look at a couple other examples and see how this really works out there in the wild. I think we're going to start here by looking at Holman's table, and that's what should be showing on your screen right now. And yeah, if we look at Holman's table, we're going to be dropping in here and seeing exactly what it looks like when you're on Talk on Holman's table. So we can see Holman's table here. We've got, you know, a picture of their food, you know, a really great layout here. That looks pretty good. That looks, I should have had more for breakfast, I guess. That looks delicious. That's a great breakfast that they have featured there. And we have the ability to book our party over here. You know, how many guests do you want? Starting at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How high can we go? We can go up to 7 guests. So they size their table according to the space in their restaurant. And if you go into the restaurant, you'll see that that seems about right. I think I remember sitting at a round table that fit about 6 there. So that's you know, a good size. Also went out 7, you know, 7. So most families today are going to be around, you know, 4 to 7 people coming with that family. So that should be enough to accommodate both a date night and families coming into the restaurant. And you go through here and you can see some more details. They got the patio reservation separate. So that's an option, but it's called out there because people want that, especially as we're getting into summer and some of these just gorgeous days that we have here in the Twin Cities. And we got to know exactly where Holman's is here with the map that's listed at the bottom. Private events, so we had up to 7 for the bookings, but you can request information on doing private events there, which, to let you all know, Holman's table is a great place to have a private event. So this is an example of how booking a reservation through Talk will work for Holman's table. Now, I'm going to just dial in here a little bit and show you all that this is on exploretalk.com, right? So that's how we got to Holman's table. This can typically be embedded in the website as well. But if we go to exploretalk.com, now we're out here and we're looking at all of the options for dining for Talk. And so we can see that if we want to look in, you know, St. Paul, Minnesota, which is what we're trying to do here, is, and we can look for reservations, let's say for this weekend, and we can do a search on that. We can start seeing all the restaurants that are on Talk. So this is the power that we're talking about actually just being on these platforms, right? If people know that you're on Talk, then they can come out here and find your restaurant. And if people know about Talk, they can come out here and find their restaurant, which means we need to see how well are these restaurant technologies marketing themselves? So we'll take a look at that in just a moment. So this is an example of Talk, and we'll leave it there. Let's jump in and talk a little bit about how Resi is used. And we're here looking at tongue-in-cheek restaurant and how they have Resi implemented into their website. And so you can see that the plugin is put right in here on the website. It shows the hours, for brunch and for dinner. All the information you need to contact them is right at the top, the map, and then we have a form field that you can use to share some thoughts. Now, we have to click off here if we actually want to make the reservation. Okay, so this is something that I think it works out pretty well, is having this plugin available to click off and get that reservation going, and you see all the times that are available. Now, when I see this, I think this is a little too available. It's nice to have all of these slots open, and we see that we have some bar area, some dining room, some over here, but we're not really driving scarcity in the way that we could be driving with these reservations. And so there's, you know, within the platform, you know, I think we want to dive in here and see, you know, which reservations do we really need to keep open right now so we can make sure that we get people in, and then how open do we want to make this seem? Do we want to make it seem like, hey, just drop by anytime you want, no matter what, you can get a table? Or do we want to create some type of, you know, a little bit of scarcity, a little competition around some of these prime times, especially around like 6 o'clock hour. So that's something to think about when you're setting up these reservation technologies and marketing them, is just around, how scarce you want to make the availability of the timing. Here we can book all the way up to 13 guests. So that's really a lot. I'd have some questions here about how the table staff would be able to, in front of the house, would be able to support that, because that is, those are some pretty large reservations. We saw some variation with Holman's Table, how we had that limited to 7, and then you could book for bigger parties. It could possibly just be this is the right thing for tongue-in-cheek's workflow, and I wouldn't want to second guess them on that at all. But I'm curious about those aspects that were just mentioned here. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to get out of here and bring us out to Resi and get us set up to look at that just in the same way that we looked at for talk. So let's see. Let's get set for Resi here and see where we're going to book our reservation and start talking about actually using these to market. So here we have this already set to Minneapolis. Somehow it knew to look there. I'm going to change it to St. Paul and see if that comes up. Maybe it's included in Minneapolis. No, it's probably included under Minneapolis. So we're going to keep Resi here. We'll come back to Resi. The next one that we want to talk about is we're going to talk about Open Table. So this is an example at Boca Chica. I think we brought the Boca Chica website on here before. It's a pretty good one. The food's always looking great. Look at this wonderful patio. I mean, this is just where you want to be. These colors are popping. This is a great website. And there's all these options here that we have. I think maybe the accessibility here, the overlay could be a little bit improved, but I think that's another conversation. I do see reservations right here. So we can click reservations, drops us down. We have, I believe this is the Open Table embed that we're seeing right here in the website. Really easy to do. Find a table, Open Table churns up. Here we go. We're working. So this is working for us here on Boca Chica. We'd be able to set up a reservation for today. Let's see, we're going all the way up to 20 people. Again, I wonder how we staff for this. Being at too large to make a reservation at Boca Chica restaurant, we recommend contacting the restaurant directly, right? So this is something, if we can avoid presenting a customer with this, we want to. We don't, I had my heart set on 20 people. I don't want to have to go back and call them now. And I think I was right. Yeah, it was just interesting to think about how you're going to accommodate that through an automated system. 10 people, we go up to 10 people. Being inside Boca Chica and visiting that restaurant, I know that big parties are a big thing there, graduation parties, things like that. So being able to host more people is something that this type of restaurant does a little bit more of. So I'm going to do the same thing as we did with those others and just kind of bring us over to Open Table. And we're going to look at the Open Table website. So we're all set up here to talk about marketing, okay? We've looked at these technologies and we've explored some use cases and how restaurants are using them. Tongue-in-cheek, Open Table, Boca Chica, right? We saw how those St. Paul restaurants are using the technologies. I want to just do a quick example for you all and do a new tab. And I'm just going to talk about, let's just do a Google for reserve or how about this? What are people going to search for? Dinner reservations, right? Okay, so I just searched for that. We've got Open Table at the top. We've got Resi, TripAdvisor, Talk, Yelp, Eater, and then we start getting some restaurants coming in here. Spoon and Stable, that's in Minneapolis. Young Joni, that's in Minneapolis. And then we get into some other stuff off the page. So my advice to folks who are thinking about a restaurant technology would be to choose a reservation technology, is to choose one that's showing up right here, because a lot of people are going to be searching for Google to find which restaurant they're going to go to, and these ones are popping up. Now, if it's cost prohibitive or whatever it is, take that into account and to make sure that the investment's the right thing for your restaurant. But as you can see, just from this demonstration, we got Open Table, Resi, Talk, and Yelp showing up right up at top. In order to book a reservation. So that's one thing we wanted to point out. Now let's go look at Open Table, okay? Let's look at Open Table, for example. On here, you're able to, OpenTable, of course, is already doing that marketing that we just saw, a Google search that's popping up. But you're also seeing, once you get to the page here, that customers are ranking and starring and choosing the restaurants that are most important to them. And so that's one way to make sure that you're getting in front of people too, is to have good ratings on these reservation sites once people do the reviews. And so OpenTable has a good way of showing that. If we look in St. Paul again here, we're going to see all sorts of restaurants that are showing up here in Minneapolis and St. Paul featured. So you can promote your restaurant here and, you know, pay a little bit extra to be featured on the site. Highest rated distance, you know, folks can look at you in that way too. So that's one thing to consider. Make sure your ratings are good once you're out here. And if you want to pay a little bit extra to be promoted, go ahead and do that. Switching over to Resi, we're looking here again, we're seeing a lot more information here. Remember, Resi is one of the technologies that we think about more for our full service restaurants, and it's going to be very effective for full service. And look at this, we got like reviews. This is very almost, I would say, like highbrow, or almost like an editorial type of take on a reservation website, where not only can you figure out where you're going to reserve, but you can kind of learn more about the overall dining experience. So this is very on brand for a lot of the restaurants around town. And let's look at a few who are using them. If we search for tonight for a party of 2, let's see if I can even do that. Do I need to log in? I might need to log in. See if I can hit the search. Hit the search, don't need to log in. Okay, so we've got a few restaurants showing up here. Let's see who we got in St. Paul who can show up here. Let's search this area. Lots of folks on Resi, like we talked about, tongue in cheek is right here. And we can see the map, easy to find where restaurants are going to be. So also the rating is in play here. Again, you want to make sure that you maintain a high rating on these sites. So that's a little bit about what Resi is doing out here. It's a very good option. Talk is another one. Talk, we're already loaded up here. We see some St. Paul restaurants. We're seeing that they have their pricing, but we're not seeing the customer ratings out here on top, which can be a benefit for some if that's maybe something that you're working on improving. But the nice thing about Talk too is that it does a really good job of like keeping the customer in mind. So like if you're someone who comes to Talk all the time, you're really building a list, starring items, doing things like that to make sure that you have your list of restaurants. So they get a pretty good captive audience on Talk. All of these restaurant technologies have some pretty good differentiators between them. When I think about these top 3, some of what I'm thinking about more for our Resi and our Talk is the ability to go back and forth and communicate and engage with folks who've made reservations. You're collecting phone numbers, you're able to SMS through these platforms and text people to make sure that they're going to show up on time, and not just like text, automated text, but you can actually text through the system itself to have a personal conversation with folks, which is really helpful, both for customers and for restaurants, trying to make sure that you keep all your tables filled. So we've got some questions that came in. We've got someone, is marketing with reservation technologies only referring to what shows up on these platforms? Are there other kind of marketing activities that we can maximize with these platforms? Great question. There are other activities that we can push out just through these platforms. Resi is a great example of that. So I'm here on the customer side of things. Earlier, I had an example pulled up of how you can, of the business side of things. But let me just talk through a little bit about what you can do with Resi. So we already talked about text messaging. You can run an email campaign through Resi. It's very easy to connect this with your point of sale system and be able to share your marketing there. And then the other thing that you are able to do is really just focus on who your audience is and push marketing out directly to them. So you can do audience analysis through the Resi system to figure out who your customers are, so you can be more targeted and effective with your marketing. Kind of goes back to thinking about who we are as restaurateurs in the city. Because sometimes we don't have a marketing person or a marketing department or anybody to do marketing but us. Like we're the ones who are just doing the marketing. And so being able to use your reservation technology to push marketing out through it is a huge, huge benefit. You don't have the time to jump into another, marketing system to be able to do that. So yes, keeping in touch through the platform and marketing that way is a very important thing to do. They all have some tools that can be used. I found that Resi has a really powerful suite of tools. Talk as well. If we were to go into Talk and look at that, there's a lot that we can really do with Talk as far as marketing goes. A lot of the same things when we talk about marketing. But just some of these ideas that they have here, these marketing support and integrations connecting in with the systems below here that you'll see, Facebook, Google, Instagram, being able to push ads and promotions directly from this platform into Google, into Facebook, into Instagram. That's huge. Again, do you really want to be logging into all those systems to run a Facebook campaign, or do you want to push something out from a technology that you're already using every day? So that integration is a very important thing to do, and that is enabled by these technologies. Great question about whether or not the marketing through these reservation platforms is just about what's on the platform, or is it about how the platform interacts with the rest of the world? Some of we talked about how they show up on Google already when people are searching for reservation, dive in, find Talk, find OpenTable, whatever it is. But also when you're running this platform in your business to be able to push the advertising, the promotions out through various channels like Google, Facebook, and Instagram, all here and built in there for you. So that is a lot to take in, a lot to think about when it comes to using reservation technologies in your business to do digital marketing. I'd recommend that if anybody needs assistance getting these set up, maybe thinking about how to use these reservation technologies to do marketing in your restaurant, go to ncxt.co/rpama and submit an AMA request there. We'll be happy to engage with you and set up, your first marketing campaign with any of these reservation technologies, advise you about what the opportunities are, how you could reach folks, what even messaging you might want to use, all of those sorts of things. Don't be worried about getting started. We will help you with all of that so you can get going and getting more customers into your restaurant. And so again, what you would do is you go to ncxt.co/rp AMA. You'd come here and you would then, I might have put the wrong RRP. I have one extra R, RP AMA. Sorry about that. Come right here and you'd be able to come in here and sign up for a first level tech support request. And I'll bring you right here and put your information in there and we'll contact you to help you set this up. So that's what we recommend you all do. Also, we'll see you next month. Please do come back and visit us next month. June 22nd, we'll be talking about technology that reduces waste, such an important thing for us to be concerned with as restaurants, part of our brand, really. Are we caretakers and of sustainable practices in our restaurant? That's a big differentiator these days for customers, and it means everything, right? There's no option about not being a sustainable restaurant. So there's lots of ways to do that, and we're going to dive into how technology helps reduce waste next month on the 22nd. Come out here to RPAMA and click sign up here so you're notified. We'll make sure that you all get that notification, are invited again next week. Just want to check and see if there's any more questions that need answers or anything like that. I think we've taken care of everybody in the chat, so that's excellent. Once again, thank you all for joining us here. This has been the Ask Me Anything on behalf of the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Project. Going to go ahead and give another thanks to our partners at the City of St. Paul for providing such powerful support to the restaurants in the City of St. Paul. I'm Jonathan Banks. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next month on Ask Me Anything.